Hey guys, sorry I was a little bit late. Hat Tuesday number 12, Hat Tuesday number 12. I apologize for that. I actually, lost track of time, to be honest. I was getting ready. I'm still probably a little bit disheveled. I got my man Josh already saying good morning. Again, we are a one-man show here. And sometimes, I get caught up. I think I was watching one of Brad's videos. Shout out to Brad Bowers, the Had a Professor. I saw his YouTube channel for the first time, had to subscribe. I saw a great video that he did on Stetson, and I guess I got engrossed and lost track of time. But shout out to you, Brad. But yeah, Hat Tuesday number 12, man. I'm telling you, it just feels like there has been a lot of happening. I've got my cat screaming in the background, but hopefully that doesn't get picked up by the mic. But obviously he's hungry because, he never eats. Anyway, I got Paul here. Good afternoon from this side of the pond. Welcome, Paul. Welcome, Paul. It feels like a lot of good stuff happening, and it's one of those things where I'm like, obviously my own perspective is part of that, right? Even when not so great stuff happens, I'm like, well, the bright side of it is XYZ, and I kind of try to have that attitude only because, sometimes you got to have like that fake it till you make it attitude. And then Oliver just walked in. He's like, didn't you hear me screaming for food? Shout out to Oliver for being ever the hungry cat. But yeah, just lots of good stuff happening. Like I mentioned before, I am primed for a trip to the UK next month to go visit Paul, Ian, and anybody else that happens to be there with us. And I'm looking forward to that. Before that, I'll be in Utah. That'll actually be, if not on Thanksgiving, but right after Thanksgiving. So I'll go Utah for the first time. I'm looking forward to it. I had like mixed opinions about Utah, and I'm like, well, you know what? I've never been. I'll opine on that as soon as I get back from that trip. And then there'll be other trips happening. Obviously, I'll probably make my way back to New York at some point. Puerto Rico's on the docket as well. Hopefully with my brother. So yeah, a lot of good stuff happening. And like I said, I'll try to see if I can make some content. If I can't do a full show, at least go live maybe if I can. But I won't force the issue. Push comes to shove, I won't stream at all, and we'll take a little bit of a hiatus. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Like that whole showbiz, always leave them wanting more, right? So hopefully all good stuff happening on your side as well. As you can tell, you guys probably have not seen this hat before. I know you haven't seen this hat before, unless you've been in my, in my Good Looks Board of Directors chat. I literally just picked up this boater hat, and I was really excited. Getting a nice vintage boater has been something I really wanted to do. And I know that a lot of people don't really care for it, right? About the boater look. I've talked to a lot of folks, and they're like, well, just not my kind of style of hat. But you gotta respect the boater. I mean, I respect all hats, to be honest, but the boater hat is kind of like one of those hats that you're like, man, once you see that hat, it can't help but take you back in time. And and this is a Knox Boater from, according to my conversations and my research, but especially my conversations with Brad on our group chat. Brad gave me his seal of approval that 1950s is a good solid era for this. Only because, well, there was conversation right on the Fedora Lounge about the idea of the sizor, right? That's kind of a feature that this hat has. And the way I understand the sizor kind of trademark or the feature of it is you can apparently, there's like a little metal clip that you can kind of undo and then essentially size the hat. Again, I don't know anything more than that, but that is a feature that they said came out in the 1940s. I think the exact time period was late 30s to the late 40s. But another piece of evidence was the brown size tag. So based on the hataprofessor.com, right, shout out to Brad. See, I told you, your website has always paid dividends for me. The brown size label was something that was used in the 50s and the 60s. So we had a little bit of a kind of a pretty decent range. So I kind of reached out to Brad on the group chat, and he confirmed his assessment would be 1950s, and I'm going with that. You know, if that's what Brad says, I'm going to go with it. And it really doesn't matter, to be honest, right? Like, you know, 40s or 60s, I'm like, it's still a boater. It's still by Knox. I love it. Can't be more pleased. Paul says that hat does look good on you. Very UK. Henley on Thames boating event. I love it. I love it. Like I said, you know, I don't know. I'm probably gonna go and fly to the UK with some flat caps. I will probably leave my other fine hats here. I like the travel, the form factor of the flat cap. Right, it's easy to pack. I'm gonna try to travel light when I go over there, and plus, you know, I'm pretty sure. You know, I'm going to come back with some hats, given the fact that I'm going to meet up with Paul, right? So he's got a few already on the docket. You still have a chance to go steal that Hamburg from me. Otherwise, I'm going to go talk to Paul and say, if he still has it, then I'm going to try to take that back with me, right? There might be a limit to how many hats I can take back, but we'll see. We'll figure it out. You know, I'll get creative. So yeah, a lot of good stuff happening. Again, this a Knox Boater from the 1950s, and I really like it. Like I said, it makes me feel happy. You know what I mean? I always talk about the most important thing about any hat, regardless of what style or what what you prefer is, how do you feel when you put it on your head? And this one just makes me feel extra happy. So I just, like I said, it's just impossible for me not to get that I don't know, the endorphins or the dopamine, whatever it is, they're firing, and I dig it. Paul says it's got your name on it. Hey, I love it. Like I said, I'll try to play fair, but you know, I can't give you, like Paul's got a lot of great hats. Shout out to Paul. I'm gonna put up his information here. Check out Paul's website. He's got a lot of great stuff on there for sale. So a lot of his creations, as well as a lot of the vintage stuff that comes his way. Chances are he's got something in your size. So reach out. Like I said, you never know. And if you want to say, tell him Good Luke sent you. You know what I mean? That at least I get to know is like that. I'm able to drive some traffic over to Paul, obviously over to Brad's fine website, over to Robert Galt, to Josh, to anybody here that has a social media presence. Maybe if they don't have a business, they'll at least have a social media presence. And we really owe it to our community to kind of support these gentlemen. So yeah. Let's see here. I have a sewing machine here that was used back in the 1800s for making straw hats. If you would like me to jump on and show it, absolutely, Paul. Get on here and show it, please. I enjoyed your last video showing the steamer. So yeah, I think I think a lot. I know I'm curious, so I'm gonna speak for the audience and say, yeah, we'd love to see that. So jump on here and show us. That's exciting. I love that. I think a lot of folks, a lot of hat enthusiasts really are into, right? What is the equipment? I made this comment on Paul's video. What is the equipment that a hatter uses on a day-to-day basis? Not because we have to have it for ourselves, but some of them might, right? It's like some of us, like, we want to have that connection. If it's good enough for Paul, it's like, yeah, of course I'm going to use it. I think that's a worthwhile thing for a hat enthusiast. Even if you don't intend to ever go ahead and use any of that stuff. I mean, again, let's be honest. A lot of us are guys. We're into machines, right? Like it's a thing. Watches, cars, guns. Any kind of machines you're gonna find some kind of guy be like, ooh, that's interesting. It's like, I like that. It's like I think we're just wired for that, right? I think it has to go back to evolution, right? To the idea of making tools, right? For the right tool for the job, right? It's kind of a thing as old as time. And I just think that there's something to that. And then we got Brad here. We got Brad. How's it going, my friend?
Oh,
Andy
good.
Paul.
Hey,
Brad Paul.
how you doing? Nice to meet you, Brad.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Paul is mentioned sharing some of the sewing machine that he has from the 1800s. I will before we get to that though, I want to do a quick hat check. Right, I mentioned my boater. I will go and let's start with Brad, and then we'll go over to Paul here.
Okay, well today I've got my 1910s Stetson Derby.
All right.
Nice. Yeah.
The oldest Stetson I have.
All right. Love it. Paul?
This is one that I made. It's a
Nice.
Fepsa felt because I use mostly Fepsa. It's beaver and rabbit fur felt. I think it's about 5 or 10% beaver, so not very high, but that's enough to make it interesting. So it's just a nice, comfortable hat, And I think because I'm quite a wide gentleman, I think the wider brim sort of seems to suit me, so I'm quite comfortable in it.
Yeah, love it. And then we have a feline friend, Brad. Do you want to share? Introduce the feline. I love it. Oliver's around here somewhere, but
this is Gracie. She was pestering me to get on my lap because that's her favorite thing is to sit on my lap. So
yeah.
She won't stay
Oliver is a radius cat. He does not want to be touched or picked up. He wants to triangulate. His preference is to get into triangle formation. If there's two of us, he's gonna sit in that perfect triangle formation and kind of be around us, and not on our lap or anything. That's funny how cats are. So.
Yeah.
Shout out to Gracie. All right, well, Paul, I'll leave the floor to you, my friend. I'm interested to see this.
I saw the hat and I thought, you know what? I think I've got something that would perhaps interest you. And I'll tell you, this was a machine that it was actually used in a town called Luton, which Luton is in the UK. It's one of the central places for making hats. And there was a factory there that I met the gentleman where his family had owned the factory for generations, right back into the early 1800s. And he had some of these machines that he was selling. And I bought 2 of them. And they are a machine that actually sews together the sizable type hat that you've got on. And it's all made up into a braid, and then you put the braid through this, and you can clearly adjust the size with this slide that goes backwards and forwards. And it then stitches it's like a piston, like on a car. You've got like a piston here. This is just going up. Oh, you can't see it very well. See if I can show you around this way.
Sure.
But it sort of goes up and down. So you can see it here. And it's an amazing piece of machinery that was in use for over 100 years, and it's very heavy, by the way.
Wow.
It's very heavy, but I keep it. I have used it actually. I have used it, but I keep it more for its antique sort of value, to be fair, and it's just nice to show people if they come to the house. And I don't get many people come to the house, but if they do, it's a nice thing to sort of show people a bit of the history of how things were made. So it's I think if this was still in use and oiled regularly, I think you get another 100 years out of it. It's that well made.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's
how did you come about it, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I was looking for a hat making machine for obvious reasons, and I was on eBay, and I found a gentleman on there, and I got talking to him, and then he talked to me about these items that he was getting rid of because his family had sold the premises, had nobody else to take over the business. And he ended up as a school janitor, and so I ended up going to this school, which I thought was very odd. But anyway, he had a garage at the school where they kept all of the sort of grass cutting equipment, all that, and he was clearly the odd job man that was servicing all these machines and doing all of that sort of laborious work. And then he had a whole row of these different hat making machines that he was selling. So I picked one that was working, and it was a few £100, and I mean, you can see them. I've seen them in America, but they want sort of £700 to £1,000 for them, which I'm not sure why, but it may be it's just because they're quite rare over there. But they're not that. I suppose they are rare over here, but you know, I don't know that they're that desirable. But for me, it was just a lovely thing to add to the collection, really.
Yeah, and you gotta love that. I mean, you know, for me, like when I went and I was talking to the gentleman that I purchased this boater from, I didn't know the story, right? So he indicated he has other hats, and I'm like, you know, wow, I'm now very intrigued, right? This is a gentleman that doesn't live that far away from me, so I'm like, oh wow, this person's right in my backyard. I want to meet this person, but unfortunately, when he gave me the address, he said the hat will be on the front porch. I know, you know, please don't knock on the door. Place the money, you know, underneath the mat, and then take the hat. And I'm like, oh, you know, it's like I really wanted to kind of meet this fellow hat nerd, or seemingly, right? In my mind, it's like, okay, this is another hat nerd that's in my area. But when I got there, I don't know, it was a humongous property. So this man was obviously, like Paul would say, a moneyed individual. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of like a little bit of an estate. So I get there, I could not, I guess the porch was so big that I could not find where this hat was. So I'm sitting there looking, I'm messaging him saying, hey, I don't see the hat. A gentleman comes out, whom I thought was this gentleman, and it wasn't. He's like, no, we know him. He's our landlord. We rent here. And I'm like, wow, you rent this? I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, whoo. And you know, he's I don't know. He was in my mind was like he looked like, he gave me the appearance that he was kind of an executive level kind of guy, right? Like you meet those folks, sometimes you see how polished they are, and you're like, that guy's somebody. But you know, I didn't want to pry. So he's like, yeah, do you know where the hat is? He's like, yeah, it's over here. I'm like, okay. It was like the needle in the haystack. I'm like, all right, I missed it. And I'm like, well, all right, well, I guess I'll give you the money if that's okay. He's like, oh yeah, we'll hand the money. It wasn't that much money to begin with. And he's like, yeah, he's probably got other stuff that you might be interested in. I'm like, yes, you know, if only I could get to meet this man. You know, and I don't want to pry. My guess now, based on what I saw, was that he might be planning for retirement, meaning maybe he's going to move, or maybe he's downsized, right, and decided he couldn't sell the place, so he's going to rent it out. So I'm just speculating here, but it just got me really curious about the backstory. It's like, how did he come about this hat? Because for me, the boater hat was something I always wanted. I just could never get my hands on one. It was either too much money or whatnot. Usually that's the case. Like somebody's asking for too much money, and I'm like, okay, well, that hopefully somebody else is going to get that and treat it right. Yeah. And for this one, I'm like, okay, this is in my price range. And for me, it took me back to the Honeymooners. I don't know if you guys were as big a fan of the Honeymooners as I was, but it was besides Norton, who wore a hat, right? He wore a fedora, but Ralph Cramden, who usually doesn't wear hats, there was an episode where his wife starts learning mambo lessons from the neighbor, right? So I believe a Cuban neighbor who's teaching him mambo. He gets insanely jealous, and then Alice, his wife, is telling him, like, well, it's just that we're older now, and I just want to have fun still, you know? And it gets him feeling bad. It's a kind of very common shtick, you know, where he will yell at Alice, and then Alice will say something, and he starts, man, am I a jerk? Well, I'm going to change my ways. And then he decides that he's going to go and take Alice out, and he wears a boater. Right? Norton, his best bud, is teaching him how to dance. And he's got a boater hat on, and I'm like, wow. Like for me, that's an early memory of the boater hat and I still get the feeling, you know, like I'm over there dancing like Ralph Cramden.
Yeah. So in the UK, Luke, we there's quite a few people that still wear boaters. I mean, my daughter used to wear one going to school. It was part of the school uniform, and Henley-on-Thames is a famous place in the UK where the Thames is obviously a river. Henley is a place, and that's where we have our regattas. You know, these racing regattas where they're rowing several people in a long. It looks very precarious and unnatural. But they race boats, Oxford and Cambridge, and all that sort of thing. And of course, along with that goes all the social scene. So there's lots of champagne being drunk, and there's there's lots of people having fun and just talking about boating and stuff. And of course, that's part of the uniform is to wear a striped jacket, white trousers, and a boater. So it does still remain in part of the customs, if you like, here in the UK. You don't see people walking down the street with one very often. Let's put it that way. But
it's usually a social thing. I think you're right, because in the movie Public Enemies, which we covered on one of the Fedora Fridays, this is a movie suggested by Ian. You can see Johnny Depp at a horse race, or either a dog race or a horse race, and and he's got a boater hat on. I think he does, or somebody in that. It's really synonymous in my mind. I believe he was wearing one, and I think he was also wearing one in a theater during that movie as well. So for me, it makes sense. It's a social type of event. Usually, you connote it with like the kind of high society, right?
Yeah.
At least I do.
And it's much more of a summer hat rather than a winter hat. You know, I've never worn one, so I don't know how comfortable it is, because it seems they are quite rigid. And whether it's cool in the summer, it probably is cool enough to let the air through, and therefore not warm in the winter. But certainly in the UK, I know my daughter had a boater. I think my daughter had a boater for the summer, and then I think she had a beret. No, not a beret. An open crown style ladies hat for the winter, which was a felt hat, I think, if I remember rightly. But
what got me was the brown leather sweatband. Remember, I mentioned this before. A brown leather sweatband automatically heightens a hat for me. I guess that's kind of what I've picked up in becoming like on my journey towards being a vintage nerd. You start learning that brown leather sweatband is the thing you look for. When you see that brown leather sweatband, you're like, okay, check. Not that there's anything wrong with the black leather sweatband or even the non-leather sweatband. It's just that you start connoting these things as, okay, this is going to provide at least another clue as to how to date this hat. And it also looks sharp. I mean, we saw Morgan's Huffbud hat with that leather sweatband. I'm like, wow, you could it looks almost good enough to eat, and I would recommend that.
Those guys really know. They use the best, I must say.
Oh, yeah.
But you hit on a subject there, sweatbands, Luke. And you know what? You could probably do a whole episode of this, just talking about the different leather sweatbands and the different widths of sweatband and the different types. I mean, there's cloth sweatbands, and when should you use that? And the leather, the sort of 2-inch versus the 1.5-inch versus the sheepskin, or the straightforward calf, or even UPVC, because even people like Christie's have used plastic. I mean, I can't think about wearing a plastic sweatband, because you'd literally sweat in it.
Correct.
Whereas you put a Hornscoff or a Hufford hat on with the beautiful sweatband they have, and you just don't even know that you've got a hat on, even though it's quite a considerable felt.
Yeah, and that's how this one feels like, meaning it, this is a 7 1/8, and it feels right. It feels comfortable. And that was my concern. It's like, okay, well, maybe this will be a hat that I won't necessarily wear, because I might not feel comfortable wearing it. But as soon as I put it on, it just felt right. And I feel like the sweatband was part of that process, that, part of the reason why it feels so good. And then Josh says, I despise plastic sweatbands. Yeah, I just don't know. Like, obviously, we know maybe there's a cost, but I'm like, wow, put something else. I mean, Brian Forbes uses fabric, right? The 2 Brian Forbes hats has a fabric sweatband. I prefer that over plastic any day.
Yeah.
At least give me some fabric.
I don't know whether you do you know the designer Vivienne Westwood? Is that a lady that I think she's got over to America, but perhaps not.
I've heard the name, because I think either from you or both you and Robert have mentioned, I believe, Vivienne Westwood.
Vivienne Westwood is very much a sort of 60s, 70s designer with the sort of punk era. And she produced a hat for a gentleman called Boy George, and also for Pharrell and
Right.
Pharrell Williams, of course, and it was a domed open crown high with it looks like a with the
Yes.
4 areas on it. Okay, but inside, what was very interesting was that she'd rolled up material and padded it so that it was like a tube, if you like, of padding, and put that inside as a sweatband. And what that meant was that the hat would just mold to your head, because what she figured out was, I don't know whether it was her or somebody that works with her or somebody else, but what was figured out by somebody is that actually, if you had something like that, you could wear a hat from a size sort of 57 through to a 61, and it would just sit on your head because it just takes up the size. And I thought that was really, really interesting when I found that out. Yeah.
Well, I got to pause here because you don't get James Bond coming into your lives very often. Now I know Jim. James Bond actually allows me to call him Jim. He goes by Jim Bond, but I just love it. It's kind of like, I have a brother who's actually named Willie Colon, and people think he's William. He's like, no, his name is Willie. It's on his birth certificate because he was named after the famous salsa singer. So, I like to tell people my brother's Willie Colon. Well, not that Willie Colon, but I'm also friends with James Bond. Welcome, James or Jim. It's nice to see you here. Thanks for finding your way, and you're invited. Jim has an excellent collection of vintage, and he dresses the whole nine. He's one of those gentlemen that goes all out, and I would love to have you on here anytime you'd like, Jim. So yeah, shout out to James Bond. But in terms of the boater, Brad, is there anything historically of note that you found in your research about the boater and how it fits into, like, because we talked about, right, the idea besides coverage from the elements, we know that a lot of hats have been used historically as indicators of status. And I'm really curious as to your take, in terms of the boater. And if you're not aware, that's okay too. I just want to make sure, because I do respect your research.
I can't speak for the UK, but here in the US, I think you tend to see it adopted more by both the middle class as well as the upper class. It's not so much a working class hat.
Right.
Mostly because a lot of those guys only had one hat, and that was
right.
They wore it year round. If they could afford a summer hat, they would. And of course, there's always those crazy stories about the straw hat riots there in I think it was New York City. In the 20s, where you're supposed to, punch your fist through the top of the boater,
right,
on felt hat day, and then switch to your felt hat. I suspect that was probably started by manufacturers to sell more.
That'd be great. Yeah.
But we'll get a new one next year.
That's brilliant, actually.
Yeah. I can't imagine doing that to any hat now.
Yeah. Yeah. Please, if you see me wearing my boater, don't punch your fist through it.
Right. And today in the U.S., it has more of a connotation with, I hate to say it, but the summer political conventions for the political parties, because you wear those styrofoam ones. And so I think that's why you don't see it a lot in public. But you also can't get a decent one. I mean, they still make them in Italy, but I don't care for them because the brims are much narrower.
Yeah.
They don't look right for a proper boater.
So. Yeah, that's interesting. So the idea of the stingy brim boater, I didn't even think of it until you mentioned it. Now looking back around photos that I remember, I'm like, that is very stingy. And I'm not opposed to stingy brim. I love the stingy brim, but on a boater, I gotta agree with you. You want to have a little bit of that brim width or length on there, because it really enhances. I don't know. I don't have anywhere near the shoulders that Paul has, right? So sometimes a longer brim, it doesn't feel as comfortable on me when I look in the mirror. But with the boater, it seems just right. And it could just be the flatness of it.
I think it's one of the nicest hats on you, funny enough. And
Thank you.
I really do think it's unusual, one, to find somebody that wears one, but if you've just taken to it and it really suits you. So, you know, I'd wear a jacket with it and really enjoy it. You know, it's just a very different hat.
Yeah. And you know, James mentions boater hats are my summertime favorite. James, I have not seen a hat that doesn't look good on you. So, you know, and I don't recall seeing a boater on you yet, because James tends to favor the bowler style hat, the derby. You know, but yeah, I would love to see some of your boaters, James. You know, as if you guys haven't followed James, I'd recommend it, because he just has, again, a guy that goes and it has period appropriate type of dress. And it's really fun to watch, having somebody out there that does it. On the Fedora Lounge, we have a gentleman called Fabio. He also is a very snazzy dresser. I believe Fabio is in Brazil. I could be wrong, but I think he's in Brazil. And again, a guy that dresses all the way. Another gentleman, Robert, the gentleman that talked about and mentioned us discussing the mercury nitrate discussion. He also is a very snazzy dresser, and you gotta love it, right? It's just one of those things where you're having fun with hats and having fun with your style, and even if it's not your style, you can certainly respect it and understand why somebody does it, because it's fun. It is fun.
Yeah. Paul, I was gonna talk about the sweatbands, because you were, you know, talking about the different technological advancements with sweatbands, and the concerns that, because it is a stiff hat, that, you know, how comfortable is it going to be? And you do see a lot of adaptations with sweatbands for boaters to make them comfortable. The most famous, of course, is the Bonton Ivy sweatband, which, if you haven't seen one, it's a regular leather sweatband, but it's not directly attached to the straw crown. It's instead got a little lace. It looks like lace border around it, and the lace is actually sewn to the crown so that it floats in there. It's kind of like, you know, get a hard hat. It's got a separate adjustable band inside to fit your head, and that way you're not, you know, having that hard shell against your head. Same thing with the boater, so it will conform more to your head.
I love that.
Luke's hat also has an advancement, not on the sweatband, but on the brim. If you look, you can see there's a difference in the straw pattern between the edge of the crown and the brim, and that was called a comfit.
Comfit, yes.
Comfit, and it's in it's labeled in your sweatband. But it's designed, you know, it's a much tighter weave of straw, and it's a different weave than for the boater, and it's designed to have give to it so that the hat's going to be more comfortable on your head. Comfit, and so that's probably why it feels so comfortable to you, because of that adjustment.
I will. I actually have some photo. I'm gonna see if I can go and share so the audience can see. Again, you guys, if you guys have watched any of my any of my channel at all, you guys know this doesn't always work out well for me. But I will go and try to find that what Brad just mentioned, and that is right here. But this is that label right there that Brad was just referring to, Comfit, registered U.S. patent. So yeah, this, I got to tell you, if that's what's going on here, and you can see that, you know, there's some discoloration on the sweatband here. It's obviously, you know, seen some wear. But I got to tell you, I did not expect it to be anywhere near as comfortable. It might be one of my most comfortable hats. And that's, I got a lot of hats. I'm like, I didn't expect it. You just don't expect a piece of straw that's cylindrical to come into your head and feel like this. And I was pleasantly surprised. I'm like, I'm going to actually wear this. Now I got to figure out where I'm going to wear it to. You know, I just don't want to wear it. Well, I'll wear it anywhere. Honestly, I don't care. You know, again, I wear all my hats eventually. And, you know, for me, I'm like, well,
yeah,
fine.
but you do realize, Luke, you're going to have to learn to dance like Dick Van Dyke.
Hey, you know what? I'd give my right leg to dance like Dick Van Dyke. I gotta tell you,
Brilliant.
you know, it's like you know, I could think of worse things than dancing like Dick Van Dyke. I gotta tell you, Ralph Cramden. I'll even be fine with dancing like Ralph Cramden. You know, he's got moves. That guy could move. A big guy that could move. Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind cutting the rug. Again, I might offend a few people in terms of like, wow, that guy. Don't quit your day job, right? It's like, you know, it's like, but that's okay. As long as I have fun, right? I'm in it for number one first. I'll have fun. And if you guys end up having a good laugh at it, I might, you know, because of that, even better. So this is gravy.
Exactly.
Hey, Luke, can you scroll down on the picture and show them the difference in the straws?
Oh, yeah.
That's one feature right there, that very tight weave.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, see, this is the part where you guys, the hat makers, are able to really opine and kind of really tell the viewer what they're seeing here. Because for me, until Brad pointed it out, I didn't make note of it. Yeah, this is really intricate, and again, you don't, and it's just my ignorance, you don't expect to see this kind of stuff on a boater. I don't know. It's just my own personal lack of experience with boaters. I didn't expect to see this kind of level of intricacy that you're seeing, and that just shows you like what kind of work and design went into these hats. Gotta love it.
Yeah, it's why they kept their research and development departments, as we call them today, busy coming up with new ways to improve, you know, features on hats. And I suspect a lot of it was because perhaps the sales might have been lagging, and they thought, well, let's try and make them more comfortable and see if we can keep wearing them. And, you know, it worked to a certain degree because they were still making them into the 50s and even 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, they were getting them from Italy by then, but the Italians still make them today. So.
Yeah. I love that. I love the fact that somebody's making them. They might not be the same, but you know, that's been a recurring discussion on this channel. That so like Steve Heck, who came on here and talked about the real actor velour process. You know, that process is lost, right? Brad, the last time Brad was here, he talked about the Kavanaugh edge. It was really catapulted him into doing hat research. And the main question was, why can't this be replicated? You know, you think about all the advancement that we've made technologically. One would think that anything that we've done in the past, we could probably do again now, and maybe we can do it more efficiently. But what it's turning out to be is that that's not always true, which is just fascinating.
I think the part of the problem may be that when you look at the weave on this hat, there's a huge amount of work that's actually gone into making the basic straw come together, and then to stitch that basic straw together in its different widths and things. So when you look at the actual hours that it's taken to make your hat, I would say that you could be looking at 7, 8, 9 hours, you know, maybe twice as much as, I mean, I don't know whether you've got any ideas, Brad, on how long it takes to make one of these, but certainly from where I'm sat, I wouldn't like to, well, I wouldn't know where to start, to be fair, but I think it would be a lot more hours than actually producing a felt hat, because of course these felts are made by the factory, and you know, you've got a basic shape before you even start. So whereas with this would have come on the roll, and somebody would have had to make that into the roll of sisal or whatever the material is, and straw material it is, and then decide how they're going to stitch it round. And I mean, look how many times that's gone round. That's That's
Right.
5 or 6 times just in that little bit, let alone the remainder of the hat. And then you've
Yeah.
got all the stiffening and the forming. I mean, it's just phenomenal, the work that I would imagine goes into that hat,
Yeah.
and therefore the cost. And so therefore, can it actually be economically produced today? And that's probably a bit of a difficulty, really.
Right. Yeah, yeah, it makes sense, and that's really another kind of related discussion, which is, obviously, Robert was the one that mentioned it's like this business, the hat making business, is difficult to scale, right? And if you're gonna scale it to something like a Stetson or a Lock and Co, you're gonna have to. That's something that's gonna be very difficult to do even in one lifetime. Right? Let's say you started off in your teens, you might still never reach that because of all, right? We're talking about Lock and Co and Stetson have been around for hundreds of years. So one lifetime might not be enough. And now the question is, and again, that whole idea of never say never. There might be somebody that figures it out, right? That's what you're always hoping, that maybe they find their way into this channel, right? They see this discussion and they're like, "Oh, guys, if only you knew. Wait, watch this in the next few years." And I love it. I would love that to happen, because I would love to be wrong about that, to be honest.
What remind me, Luke, that just before you come over, to reach out to Lock and Co, because in their actual shop they've got a museum, and it would be lovely if we can get permission to go into the museum and you can see, because the actual building is one of the oldest buildings in London, let alone and it's the 10th oldest shop in the world of any kind, and the oldest hat shop in the world. So there's lots and lots of history there, and as soon as you walk in, you can feel it. You can feel the quality. You can feel that they fully understand what they're talking about. It's a bit like going in. I mean, look, I've never been in JJ hats over in New York, but certainly seen a lot of videos of it, and it's a bit like walking into there.
No, I love that. That sounds great. I will try to set a reminder to do that, and I appreciate you, Paul and Ian, for having kind of made those connections. And again, as long I'll go up to where I feel I start wearing out my welcome. As a kid, this stuff kind of brings the kid out in me, and I just want more and more and more and more. So hopefully between all of us, we'll be able to kind of, somebody with the and it's probably going to be Paul, is going to find the right moments. Okay, well, we've taken up enough of your time, and then me and Ian will be like, whatever, But good thing Paul's got a good head on his shoulders. He'll know the right time to kind of peel us away. That way we get invited back.
We want to go back. Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And what I wanted to kind of mention here as well as part of the discussion, the idea of like bigger hats went to China, where they make the straw hats and they're all hand woven. Interesting take. And Bigger Hats is a channel that Josh introduced to me. I want to have that gentleman, Jeff Bigger, of Bigger Hats. I'd love to have him on here. And it says the issue is there is no machine that can weave the hat accurately. Got it. Very interesting. Again, it's one of those things where at some point, somebody that gets into it, maybe it's going to be a mechanical engineer, right? We talked about that with Brad, that maybe the next level of hats is going to be a kind of a mechanical hat, kind of like a little bit of that engineering that we've seen in your bowler hats, but maybe to another level. And again, this is a hobby that's dominated by guys. We know that guys are really into machines, right? Some guys are really into like taking them apart and then putting them back together, and some guys are even into making new machines, right? How do I make this better and cheaper, right? And I feel like somebody's going to come in here and then turn everything we know on its head. At least that's what I hope, because that's how the process is supposed to work, right? Innovation, right? Necessity is the mother of invention, and you hope that somebody's out there is like, how to make this better. We'll see.
I've been idly considering the idea. I don't know how it would be conceivable, but somebody someday may figure out a way to 3D print a felted hat. You're going to have to think really outside the box beyond the traditional methods to
Right.
come up with something different. And I was thinking that if that could be achieved, that would be a way to bring back the Kavanaugh edge.
Right. Well, we talked about 3D printing in terms of hat blocks, because that was something where Josh had mentioned that a friend that is into woodworking was thinking of getting into making the hat blocks, and then Robert opined, and I thought that was a good observation, that 3D printing has really upended a lot of folks that wanted to get into hat block making. And again, given that people are 3D printing weapons, right? Like it's something like, of course, yes, it makes sense that fabrics and things like that are going to be things that people are working on, and it's going to be interesting, right? It's like a brave new world, right?
I think you're right. I think myself, I love the tactile feel of the felt, and I think you'll every time you go into a hat shop, one of distinction, and you get the smell of the shop, you get the opportunity to feel the felt, and it just feels luxurious, and it feels part of the experience. So actually, it's not always about the cost of something. It's about perhaps how it makes you feel, and I think how it makes you feel is not only how you wear it, but how you appreciate perhaps how that's been made and it's been designed for you, or you've taken it off the shelf and where you've bought it and so on. So it's a whole package. So, but you know what? There's space for all of this different technology, and it's especially if it keeps the traditions going and it gets more people wearing hats. Because I mean, I'd love to see it. I know over in the UK, you'll see it, Luke. There aren't too many people wearing any hats these days, let alone nice trilbies or fedoras or derbies, or we see. I think we've seen when myself and Ian were in London, we saw a gentleman wearing a Homburg and some others wearing some interesting hats. But it's perhaps if you see 10 people over the course of 2 or 3 hours in London is quite unusual. And London, you expect, would be the place where you would see them.
Yeah. And again, I'm still kind of like, for me, Paul's description of the more conservative hat wear in the UK, it really kind of like it opened my eyes in terms of like the differences, right? And I feel like now I see Paul, right? Paul is got a lot more bolder in his color palette. I feel like that's kind of how these things happen, right? Somebody comes out there and says, "Yeah, I wear this," and they're like, "Hey, that doesn't look bad." And then somebody just says, "All right, well, I'm gonna make this happen," and these things happen. It kind of snowballs sometimes, and I would not be surprised if you start seeing some of that shift, right? That maybe it starts off in the U.S. and it makes its way across the pond, and eventually we get a kind of a I don't know. I just feel like I said we're a much smaller world than we used to be because of technology. People are watching on Facebook, right? People in the UK are watching Americans, right? Hat people in the UK are watching hat people in the US, and they can't help but be influenced by that, and vice versa, right? I think it's really going to be fun to watch that progression. And I think somebody just shared a shot. Let me know if you want me to share it on screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Let me remove this, and I'll bring this to the
Prophet Knapp put out in 1923, and they're sewing the crown of a straw boater. So you can see the braid hanging down there, and they just start with a small concentric circle and just keep adding to it. So if people weren't aware of how they made those, this is it. And I was going to ask you, Paul, how difficult was it for you to get a hold of braided straw for hats? And because you said you tried it out with your sewing machine, and I think that's
no, I actually was using it to affix the sweatband onto because there's a big gap, as you can see here. there's a big gap to be able to get the hat through, and then the brim down the bottom here. So and it works. But I'm still trying to find some decent straw to be able to play with it, because I've found the images of people actually using this machine, a specific make of machine, and it's just, do you know when you feel like a really I don't know, a classic motorcycle or something, when it's never going to go fast, but you just admire the way the engine goes over and the machinery and stuff. This is a bit like that. It's you know, I'd love to be able to fix a little electric motor to it and just watch it going up and down, because it's really quite mesmerizing just watching the old piston go. But no, I haven't tried it with the straw.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Well, James mentions by wearing boaters, we can encourage their comeback. Your boater is very nice. Well, thank you, James. I appreciate that. You know, again, this has kind of been one of those like, tales of I've always wanted one. I finally got my mitts on one. Please be everything that I expect it to be, and it surpassed that even. So I was pleased as punched with this. And you know, anybody that's collected. There you go. James says I have one from the 1890s. Yeah, I would love to have more of these. Again, when they usually come on, it's always been kind of a price thing, and I've had to do that math. I'm like, okay, somebody with a little bit more coins gonna really take that and appreciate it. I just can't rehome it right now. But now I feel like I'm going to be on the lookout for more, you know, and I recommend for you guys, if you guys have not tried on a vintage boater, give it a chance, because, you know, I know that it might not be the look that everybody thinks about, but there's something to this hat. I got to tell you, once I put it on, I was like, wow, this feels right. So, you know, take a chance, right? If you get a chance to wear one, try it out and see if you get the same feel. And if you do, then, well, obviously take that home. And wear the heck out, right? But I just had such a blast with this hobby, you know, and right. I have a learning orientation, right? So getting to hang out with other gentlemen like Brad, like Paul, like Robert, like Josh, you know, Ian, Morgan, obviously James. You know, it really makes me feel at home, you know, and that's the thing I would describe to all those folks that find their way to the channel and aren't a hat person. I say, give it a chance, right? Because, you know, you don't know. This could really, it got me a hold without even me intending, right? My whole point was to buy a cheap straw hat in Croatia just to wear on that trip. I wasn't intending to become a hat person. I just said, you know what? I need a hat, you know, and I need a trilby. And I found that cheap trilby, and it changed my life. I became engrossed in this hat hobby, and it just goes to show you, don't be scared to try new things out, right? So, and we know that that's it's kind of one of the major profiles we talked about. I did some of my research was in the area of personality psychology. So there's one of the big 5 factors of personality, right? Is openness to new experiences. And I know everybody is not at the same level, right? So there's a whole spectrum out there, but to the degree that you can force yourself to be open to new experiences, to new foods, to new types of people, to new places, new ideas. It really is going to enhance your life, because, right, you really start learning about another culture by the things that they eat, by the things that they wear, you know, some of the belief systems that they have. And once you do that, once you travel out there and you expose yourself, sometimes you got to force yourself. You're like, you know what, that doesn't look like my thing, but I'm going to try it. And you never know what kind of impact it'll be. And then maybe you do that abroad and you bring it back home, and it could change others a lot, you know, other people, right? Because a lot of people aren't able to travel because they don't have the money, you know, they're too scared for whatever reason they can't travel, right? They got obligations. Obviously, Josh mentioned he'd like to be in the UK, but he's got a family, right? If you can come home and share what you've learned, maybe photos and artifacts, things that you could change other people's lives. And I don't know how much more I could stress that. Be open to new experiences, because honestly, that's really what it's all about, right? The experiences for me, right? And that's what I love about the new generation, is that they value experiences over things, right? And again, it's nice to have things, but I get it when you put the experience over things, because that experience, wow, that really can last over the course of generations, right? If you go and you bring it back home and you have an impact, now you created a legacy just because you traveled someplace and you opened yourself up to this new thing. So I just I know I get a little preachy on here, but I wanted to kind of mention that, because I know there's a lot of folks, and unfortunately, and I don't know how it is in the UK, but here in the US, there's a lot of media that really tries to get you scared of going to other places, right? It's like, oh, you don't want to go to Mexico, you don't want to go to Colombia, you don't want to go. And I understand, but at the same time, it can be overdone. And sometimes you need to just stop listening to the media, stop listening, right? Like, not that you don't want to be uninformed, you definitely want to be informed, but there's such beauty out there that sometimes we scare ourselves out of, and, we're scared out of by, I'm just going to call it just media. Right, I'm not even going to go and imply that there's bad actors out there. We certainly know that they exist, but you want to make sure that you apply the appropriate weight to those messages, because you could be really missing out on some beautiful experiences. And I know that in my limited travel that I've done already so far, right? I became a hat person because of my trip to Croatia. I've been to Spain. I'm going to go to the UK. That's not. A lot of people are more well-traveled, but it just makes me want more of it. And I'm looking forward to doing more of it, because, well, I used to be that kind of person that would say, I'm going to travel the world after I retire. I'm like, I don't want to wait anymore. I just want to do it now. Like, why wait till you retire? You may not be able to walk when you retire. And I like to walk. So just a message out there for you guys. Anybody have any opinions on that?
Well, I was going to just sort of wind it back to where you were talking about the hat experience, and actually just to say to people that it's not an expensive hobby. I remember when I first started, as I've said on many occasions, I bought a lot of secondhand hats, and I actually set myself a limit of about £20 a hat.
Yeah,
and and you know what, I was buying hats for under £10. So what's that, $12-13? And these were beautiful hats. I mean, I've just bought one today. It's a Stetson. It's a Trilby hat, a beautiful felt from a charity shop online, and it'll come. I'll share it on here when it comes here. But the point I'm trying to make is that yes, you can have an expensive hobby where let's hope people come and buy more brand new hats from me and buy lots of them and spend lots of money on brand new hats. But you don't need to. And actually, you can get just as much fun, if not more fun, if you're getting into the refurbishment and you're enjoying the way of taking off the various elements of a hat, replacing them, and upcycling it, if you like. I've done a couple of videos on actually taking the smaller hats, deconstructing them, stretching the felt, re-steaming them, and shaping them, and then putting a new sweatband and ribbon trim on them. And the hat's all there ready to go for another 50 years, and you just think that's really not cost a lot of money at all. So that's all the thing I'd say is that don't think this as an elitist hobby. It's not. It's just where you want to pitch it is where it's going to be.
Yeah. Wow. Well said, Paul. Well said. It reminds me of a conversation that I've had every single time I talk to, and I go out into the world wearing my hat. There's that thing. It's like people are like, "Is there any money in that?" Meaning they automatically think I sell, and I'm like, "Yeah, I've sold some hats, but I don't consider myself a hat seller. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm okay with making a buck. I encourage it. I could buy more hats if I made a buck, right? But I tell them, it's not something you get into expecting to get rich. Right? It's like everybody's like, "Oh, what's that angle? What's Luke doing?" You know, it's like, oh, there's got to be money in there. I'm like, I don't know that. And it reminds me of Brad's website when he talks about the idea of, you know, how much money can you reasonably expect to sell a hat for? I thought that was very responsible of Brad to kind of include that on his website because, well, Brad's a historian, but people are looking to him to also provide valuations on some of their hats. And Brad did the responsible thing, which is like, whoa. Don't think that this cool hat, right? It might be cool, but it might not be worth what you think it's worth. And that goes beyond, right? So like everybody wants to sell their house. Everybody thinks their house is worth more than everybody else's house. We tend to do these things. And what we don't want to see is somebody coming in here buying, expecting that they're gonna sell and make a fortune. I mean, you might be able to do it. It's not like you can't make money doing this, but I wouldn't go in there thinking like, because I'm thinking like Pokemon, right? I got friends that collect Pokemon cards because that's the new hot craze now. I had a brother. I have a brother that was also into reselling sneakers, but that market has deflated. Watches, the watch community. We know what was going on with the Rolex market in particular, where people were going, right? The gray market existed because, well, there was that idea, right? It was a frenzy where all of a sudden people were buying these at retail and then selling them for more than even than Rolex was selling them for. That's a bubble, right? That is a bubble. I hope we never really see that. I mean, I think it'd be interesting. It wouldn't change the way I approach things, but you got to be very careful about trying to be and doing this for the wrong reasons. Don't go into this hobby expecting that you're going to go and flip this again. Doesn't mean you can't. Paul's done it. I've done it, right? I've sold hats for more than I've paid for them, but I don't count on that as right. Right. That's not why I'm doing this, right? I'm not. I do this because I love hats and I love these things around me, you know. And I just want to put that out there because I know that that's happened with Pokemon cards. I know it's happened. It's going to happen. It's one of those human fallacies that people get into where, right? And Warren Buffett talks about it all the time, right? You want to invest in an asset, right? And you don't want to view hats as assets because they're not, right? An asset is something that puts money into your pocket, right? A hat only puts money into your pocket if you sell it for more money than you paid for it.
This is what I call, it's called value for joy.
Correct.
And you feel joyous, if you like, having invested in something that makes you feel good. You know, you get a nice leather jacket. In our case, you get a nice hat. And if you feel good, and if you've earned the money, you've not borrowed the money, you've earned the money to buy for it, then absolutely fabulous. And you know what? If you're buying second-hand hats, there's very few hats that I've bought that I've not covered my money that I paid for it. In fact, probably 95% of the time I've been fortunate enough to make money because I've restored the hat. And I'd just say that you have to look at it not as an asset, but just as a joyous thing. And I find it very relaxing, and I like sitting in my hat room here, just looking at the screen, researching stuff on ChatGPT or the internet, and watching videos of other people that make hats. And it's just my little time, if you like. I come out, the family think I'm a little bit mad sometimes, but that's okay. But it's just a relaxing thing to do at a certain age, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Paul. Like I said, this is kind of one of those things when I rewatch the videos, and hopefully that doesn't sound vain. I rewatch the videos only because sometimes things come up on the videos that I'm like, I'm going to remember to do that. Like the idea of when Paul mentioned about doing the featured channels, that was what got me thinking. I was like, oh, there's a way to do that. Let me figure that out. And I remind myself when I rewatch the videos. Also, there are things, right? I remember I always look back and see all the mistakes that I made. I'm like, that's actually not correct. And I don't always remember to correct my mistakes. So hopefully you guys will give me a little bit of leeway on that, a little bit of leash. But I have a lot of opinions, and I share those, and I try to qualify them as just opinions. And sometimes I think I'm spewing a fact when it turns out that I'm not. but nobody's really like had an issue with it. But every time I rewatch my videos, and I see I'm like, wow, that's actually not right. If I can remember to bring it up on the next stream, I will. But I usually don't. And I'm like, well, thanks for not like jumping on me. Because I know some of you folks that are listening to that, like, that's not right, Luke. And and I you're okay to correct me. It's like, it's just right. I never proclaim to be an expert in anything. I always say that, but it's true. There might be more. I have domains of competence, and that might be organizational psychology. Would be one. Maybe baseball would be another. But even then, I'm kind of like, for me, I feel like low men on the totem pole, right? Like, there's people out there that really know their stuff, like Brad, Paul. You're an excellent bastion of knowledge. You're a researcher, I know, at heart, because of the way you go about your process. And then Ian as well, and Josh, you guys are people that are out there trying to enhance your knowledge. You have that need to know. And I love that you come here and share that with us, because I for myself, my selfish motive, I love it.
I mean, one of the biggest challenges, I pick up on the point you made about price, and with Brad hitting that in his media. And I think price is a very interesting one, because years and years ago, of course, back in the 40s and so on, you want to buy a new hat, you'd actually go into a shop, you'd actually talk to somebody, they would size you up, they would look at your style, and they'd recommend 2 or 3 hats. Now, a lot of hatters like myself work online, and of course, it's very difficult to get across the quality of a felt, or the time that might have gone into the hat, or the size of a brim, or how it will suit somebody. And so I think the challenge moving forward is yes, the world's got smaller, because we can send things within a few days to get to America, as we know, or you can see what I've got in my range of hats by looking at my website and so on. But that experience of actually trying on a hat, that I think is what's going to hold back a number of people like myself, because we do get it from time to time that people don't understand how to measure themselves properly for a hat, even though myself and others put on our website, look, get in contact with us, we can do it on Zoom, we can take you through the process and work it out. And they still buy hats that when they get them, they don't quite fit, and we have to help out and sort out how best we can. But really, it's the material thing. I mean, you can't tell from a video or a website what the quality of a particular felt, but people that have come to the house, and there's only very few of them, as I say, and they've actually felt the felts have been knocked out. It's like chalk and cheese with what is available in the local shops, if you like, here in the UK. If you go to London, you will get the Fepsa felts, and you will get the lovely, but you do have to pay an awful lot more because their overheads are so much higher. So this price thing is a very interesting, price versus value and so on, in a hat. And I think the other thing that goes along with that is high volume manufacture of hats through the pressing out of the felts and then the dressing of the felts, as opposed to the handmade felts on an open crown block, which is the likes of myself and Josh and others actually do, which is a nice thing to have. But of course, we can't do the high volumes. But coming back to the price, I'll take you into, or Ian and I will take you into Hilditch and Kay, the people that they sell Bates & Co. They own the brand Bates & Co. And that was the hat shop where they showed us that Panama hat, which was for sale. I think it was £22,000. Right. And they've got half a dozen in a box. It's like crazy money. So we'll ask the gentleman if he'll do us the honor of showing that again and letting you see what we've got in London. I mean, that's just crazy to me.
Well, I tell you, I'm looking forward to it, Paul. And then let's see here. Josh says selling the experience of the sizing could be a thing. It's like being sized for a tailored suit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Josh. Yeah,
agreed.
I mean, I've got a video on my website that shows me working actually on my designer. He was used as the model, and we do the sizing. But it's attention to this detail, because what I find in the UK is people don't realise just that buying a hat is a serious thing. It's just like, oh yeah, I've got a size 7. Just give me a size 7. That'll be fine. Well, then I said no, because not every size 7s are a size 7. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? Because I said, well, how many times have you tried a pair of trousers on and it says that it's a size 32, and it turns out that actually it's a size 30 and it doesn't fit you? Well, it's happened a few times. It's because of the cut of the trousers, or the style of the manufacturer has said it's one size, but it's slightly smaller, and all those sorts of things. So the same,
Yeah, agreed. Completely agree. And and that you got me thinking, Paul, right? So we talked about, right, the combination of felt and leather. That's part of the luxury feel, and that's the appeal of the fine hat. And we had a conversation about leather jackets. I'm now starting to get a little bit more into like jackets. So that's something that if you guys want to see a discussion on leather jackets, because I feel like, right, we talked about things that guys are into, but hat people, right, besides like Ian smokes a pipe. I have not gotten into pipe smoking yet, but leather jackets is something that I'm starting to really get more of appreciation for. And Paul, I know you mentioned that's something that you're into as well. I'd love to do a show one day if you want to show the audience, because I know I want to see it. Some of your leather jackets and kind of what you've learned in your leather jacket journey. Because I know that there's an audience out there for it.
It's an interesting one, because there's an American brand called Orvis. Do you know
Orvis, yes.
Orvis is for the fishermen and the fly fishermen and this sort of thing, and we do get it. We've got a few shops here in the UK, and they do some wonderful leather jackets. And I've got a sleeveless Orvis leather jacket, and it's wonderful for driving in the car or going out for a country walk, or just throwing in the car. But then I've got from France, there's another bomber jacket from France, and there's one from America, and there's one from somewhere else. And before you know where you are, you've got a whole sort of around the world, a lovely Italian suit jacket, sports jacket in leather. And, you could almost go around the world in leather jackets. So maybe that's the thought. But the other thing I wanted to table today is, are you going to plan a Christmas event where we're going to sit here with a glass of champagne and a Christmas hat on or something that that we can all celebrate from around the globe, and get some of these other gentlemen and ladies that have been on the side here, perhaps to if we can do a show at a time when everybody's free, just to sort of say Happy Christmas,
Yeah, I love that. I think that's, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't thinking of something like that, but I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it now just solidifies that we want to do something. Again, remember, this channel is more than about hats, right? It's about careers, it's about life, and about celebrating life, right? So, I know that sounds a little cheesy, but it's true. Like, if you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong. Right? That's anything you do, hats or whatever you're into. You have fun with it, and if you're not having fun, then fix that, because, well, we're not on this planet for very long. So, like, demand it of your day-to-day to the degree that you can, right? Like, not everybody has fun at work, right? And you might be limited in how much fun you can have at work, but there's the little things that you can do to make this life as fun as you can. And I hopefully that's part of the allure of this channel, is that you're seeing Luke and Paul and Brad and Josh and Robert come on here, and we're essentially become like little kids, right? Paul's image, right? If you haven't seen the video when Paul and Ian called in and listened to Paul describe his day with Ian, I felt the fun, and I heard the fun in his voice, right? Like, people know when you're having fun. Like, you can't fake. You could try to fake it. I mean, you got to be a really good actor, but it's hard to fake having fun. And Paul and Ian were both having fun. That made me feel good.
All I'd say is, remember to bring your walking shoes, because we actually, when we got back, we'd actually walked 18,000 steps in that day.
Yeah.
And wow, I'm not used to doing that, and that was quite something. But you're right, we had a tremendous time, and can't wait for you to come across. And there's a little fish and chip shop. We sort of thought, well, we'll find, or the pub down in Covent Garden or whatever. But we'll certainly have hopefully a very nice day, I'm sure.
And if you're in my network, meaning the way I understand it right now is that I'll be going there solo. So if anybody is free in sometime in what was it? I said December 9th through the 16th. I believe those are the dates. I think I'm leaving on the 9th, but I'm arriving on the early morning on the 10th. If you guys are free and you guys want to meet up in London, hang out with me, I'm probably going to stay at a hostel. That's kind of the way I choose.
I'll come up a couple of times, Luke. Yeah, I'll come up. I'll make some time to come up a couple of days, and then we can do the hat tour with Ian and whoever else on one day, and then we'll just have a few beers and a chat, whatever, with whoever wants to join us. I mean, great. I mean, there's enough to be doing in London.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I mean, I think we're about an hour and 15 minutes. Unless you guys have anything else you want to discuss, I'll probably just close this out because, leave them wanting more.
Well, I was going to say, Paul, when you mentioned a Christmas show with all wearing hats, the first thing that popped into my head is all of us wearing paper crowns from Christmas crackers.
I love it. Yeah. Popping a cracker and wearing the crown. Yeah.
And another thing we talked about here early on with Paul was the idea of doing some good, right? Going out there and giving away, right? Maybe finding a way, very much kind of like, I don't know, it's not Secret Santa, but I remember years ago when I first started working, we would go to the post office and get letters from kids. And as a company, we would go and read those letters and then find out what the kids wanted for Christmas and then try to buy it and deliver it. And it was really heartwarming. And that's something that I haven't done lately. And I like to do something like that, hopefully hat related. And so as we start getting closer to Christmas time, you gentlemen and anybody that's viewing this, if you guys have an idea of how we can pull that off, right? I was just thinking about somebody that might be, who knows, they might be sick, right? They might be in the hospital, maybe a fine hat. Even if they didn't ask for one, right? Maybe something like a fine hat would make them feel a little bit better. And I mean, I don't know. I'm being a little bit kind of a sap here, but at the same time, I do know what hats have done for all of us. I can't help but there be somebody that's having a kind of a rough go at it right now during the holidays, and maybe a fine hat, we would make them feel a little bit better. So, yeah. Cool. Good ideas, guys. Well, guys, thank you so much. What I'm going to do here is and tell you is please support. Right, that you can see on my YouTube homepage. I have a partners page, right? So this is essentially folks that are in my board of directors that have YouTube channels. You got Brad's YouTube channel, you got Paul's YouTube channel, as well as Josh's. If you're in my board of directors, or if you're just somebody that knows me and is Facebook friends with me and wants me to support your YouTube channel, drop me a line and send me a link if you can. That way I can find your channel and then put it up there, because again, it's not all about me, it's about community. And if that's the least I could do to try to assist you guys in terms of your goals and your channels. So please do support those gentlemen, Brad, Paul, as well as Josh, as well as Robert, Brian Forbes, everybody here that has an affiliation. And but you know where I'm going at with this, right? Even if you don't support any of these gentlemen, even if you don't support me, right? What you got to do. Otherwise, well, there's no consequences. Obviously, let's be honest. There's no consequences. But what you got to do, if you really like me, just stay hatting, my friend. Have a great day. Ciao, everybody.
See ya.
See ya.